Good evening. Um, Call this meeting to order on August 4th, 2025. Um, Welcome everyone. Appreciate you taking the time. Looking forward to this meeting. We've got some great presentations. But before we start, it looks like we have a quorum here. Uh, First, we have an agenda before us. Are there any amendments to the agenda that need to be made? Any stated conflicts of interest for any of the agenda items? The agenda, as you can see, displayed on the screen. We've got two presentations, public comments, pretty straightforward. Okay. Hearing no amendments or stated conflicts of interest for the agenda, do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Foe, second by Councilmember Cologne. We'll do a roll call vote. We will start. There is no member from the first ward so far, so Councilmember Foe.
Aye.
Councilmember Worsnop.
Aye.
Councilmember Cologne.
Aye.
And I also vote aye. The motion passes 4-0. Okay. First item on the agenda are public comments. Do we have anyone from the public that would want to make any comment? You can raise your hand or come off mute. Okay. Hearing no public comments. I did receive an email from a resident who mentioned that she may or may not be able to join, but did share some of her comments in an email. So we'll follow up with her offline. Okay. Moving on to our first presentation. We've got two presentations. I appreciate you both for joining, you all for joining. The first one will be an overview of the planned project at the Riverdale Park Kenilworth Purple Line Station by the Maryland Transit Administration. We've
The
got
agenda is not on the screen.
yeah, because we're going to presentations right now. So I believe Joseph is that you're going to be the one presenting?
Yeah, so Kat's going to be running through the PowerPoint, but Jessica, are you able to share the screen with the? Yes, thank you. And then Kat can just give you the go ahead when it's time to change.
Thank you, Joseph. Thank you, Mayor and Council, for having us here this evening. My name is Catherine Lamb. I'm Director of Communications and Outreach for Maryland Transit Administration, dedicated to the Purple Line. And we're grateful for the opportunity to show a few slides which represent the latest information that we have available to show a bit of what's happening at what is often known as the Riverdale Flyover. If you want to go to the next slide, it's Riverdale Park Kenilworth Station, but it's often called the Flyover. And you will see that this is a rendering. This is what the future station will look like. It's already looking very much like that, minus the LRV. And as somebody commented earlier, I am standing inside a virtual LRV. This is an actual photo that was taken inside one of the 13 light rail vehicles, which have already been delivered to the state of Maryland. And just off topic for a moment, they are coming every week to Glen Ridge, and by the end of this calendar year, we should have all 28 of the Purple Line fleet delivered to the state of Maryland. But this is what the future holds, and we're getting very close to the structure being completed. There's been a lot of work that has been accomplished up top that you can't really see unless you are a construction crew member and can go up there. But next slide. Also, I want to add a disclaimer. Right at the top, I am communications. So I am not an engineer. I do not represent the construction team, nor do I represent my boss, who is the senior project director. He was not available this evening. So Joseph and I will be taking copious notes. Any questions that are not included in the PowerPoint, we promise to get back to you as soon as possible with those answers. But I'm just running through the information that's already been provided in the PowerPoint to all. You'll see here on this slide that there are some real property acquisitions around the Kenilworth Station area. I don't know if it's necessary to go into these. I'm not sure that that's why we're here this evening. I think we're talking more about the future and your hopes for the future rather than where we are currently with funding. But that's there for your records should you need to revisit it in the future. Next slide. So a little bit more detail here underneath the Kenilworth Station, aka flyover, and then an aerial view of the property. So we all know what we're talking about here. It's been a very busy area for construction, especially in the last year, and we do appreciate the patience of the public and businesses throughout. It's such a busy intersection and thoroughfare that we know that people have given a lot of patience through the traffic headaches over these last couple of years. So thank you all for that. Next slide, please. The Kenilworth Station does include beautification in addition to the art and transit, which we'll get to in a second, but you'll see landscaping plans. There was a community walk, oh gosh, last year that I went on with members of the community, Kenilworth Avenue community, and some groups, and they asked me why the art and transit project had been canceled and why instead the state had decided to replace it with just planting more trees. I don't know where that rumor came from, but if anybody on this call has heard the same thing, I want to assure you that it's both. There's beautification plans for trees and shrubs and ground cover. It will be put together in a really beautiful way underneath the flyover, but there's also an art and transit installation for that station, just like all 21 stations across the 16-mile alignment. And as a reminder, this public-private partnership right now includes the owner, which is MTA, our concessionaire, Purple Line Transit Partners, our construction partners, Maryland Transit Solutions, but as you see here, pretty soon, Purple Line Transit operators will be taking over. They will not only be operating the trains, they will be cleaning and maintaining all of the stations across the alignment. So those are people you're going to want to get to know very soon. Next slide, please. More schematics about the station. We won't go into detail here because really this is something that engineers are going to understand more, but it's here for you to study and to look at some of the fine print, all of the contributions underneath if you need more detail. Next slide, please. So the good news is that the major construction is expected to be completed in the spring of 2026. As early as 2026. Landscaping should be in place at that point as well, installed by our construction partners at MTS. And currently, as we have communicated previously, there are no plans to change any of the landscaping design that's been reviewed and approved by the county. Next slide, please. These are some of the plantings that are planned for that area underneath the station and indigenous plants, but also chosen for just the color and throughout the seasons to just bring more beauty to the area. Next slide, please. This is something that elected officials are very passionate about, and you can understand why. It's a safety issue. So station lighting will be not just in the immediate area of the station, but also as pedestrians are approaching the station, there will be lighting to make sure that people feel safe. And in addition to the lighting, there is also CCTV around the station, and that will be monitored by police. If you didn't already know, the entire alignment will be patrolled by Maryland Transit Administration Police as well. Next slide, please. This just goes into more detail about where the lighting will be installed it should be a very well-lit station. I know there have been concerns shared in the past that underneath, you know, it is going to be somewhat park-like. People want to gather there. It should be popular for gathering as people are either coming or going or saying goodbye to people they're dropping off for a Purple Line train. But it will be well lit. So it should not be someplace that is easy to hide. Let's put it that way. It should be very well lit, day and nighttime. Art in Transit, this is where it's located. It does, as you'll see in the next slide, it does have an overhanging effect. It's beautiful. There's more details about the Art in Transit project. Artists were interviewed years ago and selected by a committee that represented both counties until the artists were finalized. All those Art in Transit contracts are final, and many, I think more than half of the Art in Transit installations across the Purple Line alignment are currently under construction. You can see the one here at Riverdale Park is already installed and has been unveiled. So they represent the communities as much as possible. The artists were selected from the communities, but in some cases they are not from that actual neighborhood, but they did create their art to represent that neighborhood. So next slide, you can see what that's planned to look like. Okay, and I think that's all we've got in the slide deck. The next slide is how to reach us. Outreach is the email, and then you'll have my contact information, of course, this evening, and we're on all the major social media platforms where everything about construction, including the station that we're talking about tonight, is updated on social.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the presentation. We'll open it up for council questions or comments. Councilmember Lingua.
Thank you very much. I was there for part of this. I have also reviewed over the documents. It's a little hard to really differentiate on the documents, but in terms of sidewalks and how they're being placed leading to and from the station, was that a portion I missed, or could that be delved on more?
You should be able to see, thank you for the question, council member. You should be able to see the sidewalks within the plans, the schematics that are a little bit earlier in the deck. But I will say across the alignment, the Purple Line is installing 19 miles of new sidewalks. I think we have 18 already complete. But additional sidewalks, if you're looking for more information about additional sidewalks around this station, it's going to be a great question for SHA.
Okay. Well, let me ask you, in your opinion, based on what you're seeing in the schematics, do you feel that traversing by foot to and from the station is going to be a positive experience for anyone taking on that walk?
Well, what your question doesn't include is where is the pedestrian starting from? As you know, the Purple Line by design doesn't have any parking lots. And so it's meant for people to take advantage of existing public transit to get to the stations. And that's why the stations are located in densely populated urban areas so that it's close to neighborhoods. So not knowing the destination, what I would say is that based on what I see in the plans and the design for the Art in Transit and the lighting and the CCTV, and knowing that MTA police officers are going to be working with local authorities to patrol, I think everything has been thought of in advance to make the experience of getting to and from destinations using the Purple Line to be as safe as possible.
Okay. In terms of your query about to and from, I mean, that's really, put a compass, or a protractor on the old compass, with the pencil, and draw that 3/4 mile circle around the station stop, and that's where people are going to be coming from. I mean, so anyone coming from within that area, walking up, coming down Kenilworth, coming over from Riverdale Road, coming down from the Riverdale Height, that Riverdale Heights area. All, and coming in from that small neighborhood that's tucked back, that's north of 410, but west of Kenilworth Avenue. Those areas, I mean, that's where, people even coming up from the south.
Mhm.
That's where folks are going to be coming from. So I think that's what a lot of us, when we went out and we did the walk, were trying to experience and get a hold of. And what we were seeing at that time, really, we had a lot of, reservations, seeing what the status quo of those sidewalks were. And we're hoping that, there's going to be some improvement on that. So like you're saying, that it would be a positive experience, because a lot of the success of this station relies on that.
Absolutely. Again, I'd go back to any sidewalks that you don't see as part of the Purple Line design, speaking with the county and SHA, because I know they do have additional plans after the Purple Line project is completed, the construction part is completed, and the line opens as operating. And then it would be interesting to know how your constituents feel about walking from that distance to a bus, because there are existing transit systems already operating in those neighborhoods.
See that, so to answer that question, that's an issue in and of itself that we could talk about more about, just like walking. The station is basically an intersection of two state highways, and so you can only imagine has a full car diet. It's built for cars. And I believe we were on the same walk where it took us almost like 30 to 40 minutes just to walk from that parking lot staging area to the station, because the light sequencing and all that was definitely an issue. But I see Mr. Florence is from SHA has his hand raised. Sure, if you want to comment.
Thank you, Mayor. And good evening, everyone. My name is Eric Florence. I'm the State Highway representative here. I work in the District 3 office under Derek Gunn in Greenbelt. And the pedestrian amenities that's going to be surrounding the station, that is something that SHA is in partnership with the Purple Line Project and the county in making sure that there is no gaps in the pedestrian connectivity. Right now, we have a project that's beginning the early stages of data collection, and it'll soon transition over to design on Maryland 201 Kenilworth Avenue. The limits of that project start at, I want to say is River Road, south. That will include the intersection. This is under our PSAP, which stands for Pedestrian Safety Action Plan. It will be the round 2 of these projects. We successfully have completed our first one as far as design, which is in it straddles Montgomery, Prince George's County, Maryland 650 New Hampshire Avenue. And there's another one that's in active design now further west on Maryland 410. So with this one, there will be gaps taken care of on Kenilworth. There'll be not only pedestrian amenities, there'll be road dieting, there'll be bicycle lanes and shoulder improvements, pedestrian ramps, all ADA compliant. As far as on 410, the Purple Line Project do provide ADA compliant sidewalk east of the station. I want to say is near Mustang. They're providing new sidewalk in both directions. If you're heading east from the station, there is no immediate sidewalk there at the underpass. The sidewalk picks up at Mustang. If someone's trying to come from the east to the station, they'll be able to walk on the westbound side of Maryland 410. There will be sidewalk there. And then just in general, SHA have adopted the Complete Streets initiative, where we will be we're looking for locations to implement quick improvements. So to give an example, crosswalk upgrades, right? So anywhere where there's a old crosswalk or unmarked crosswalk to where it should be, we have the ability to come in and put in the continental style crosswalks with pedestrian signal. We are looking at opportunities to even look at mid blocks, and right now that's a big effort with State Highway, looking at ideal locations for mid block crossings when it's warranted. So there is a focus on pedestrian connectivity that State Highways, very involved in.
Mr.
Eric,
Florence, go ahead.
isn't it also true that the sidewalks that we are replacing are much wider than the ones that were there originally?
It's been a while since I looked at the plans, but I can definitely I'll check the civil plans and get back to the group.
I think
Our
to be
minimum
ADA compliant, they have to be.
Yeah, the minimum for ADA compliant is 5 feet. And so anytime you can provide more than that, especially if you're including a buffer, between the back of curb and the sidewalk, which is safer, then that's what you would try to do. So I can, what I'll do is I'll follow up. I'll check the plans for the area and see exactly what the width is of the sidewalk that's being proposed.
Hi, sorry not to do my raised hand. Eric, it's Vic
Hey, Vic.
Weisberg. How you doing?
Good.
So I just want to see, I believe, I don't know in every place, but some of the sidewalks I think were older, may have been like 4 feet instead of the 5 feet, which is required now. I did want to clarify, make sure I understood. I thought that continuous sidewalk was being provided on the south side, or eastbound traffic wise of 410 from essentially, I forget what street it is. Is it 60th? But the street that abuts the site of the Riverdale Park Transit Center. So where the rail goes across the street that is perpendicular into 410, isn't there continuous sidewalk from there all the way to Mustang?
To be honest, I've driven that corridor so many times I should know by heart. I don't recall seeing sidewalk.
Okay, I thought that was in the plan.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to check, because this has come up quite a bit over the last 18 months or so, whether or not there's going to be sidewalk at that portion of 410. I am confident that it picks up at at Mustang, because Mustang gets realigned. And I think that's Mustang, then it's like 63rd Avenue. So I do know there's sidewalk there, but I would need to confirm if it's west of Mustang.
Yeah, if you can double check. Well, we're hoping that there's continuous sidewalk, as it would be pretty dangerous otherwise.
Appreciate the comment. Just in terms of order of the meeting, want to give council members first the opportunity if there are any other comments, and then we'll open up to the public. Mr. Florence, I appreciate you sort of offering the plan. I think there is a lot of, and me personally, I will speak for myself, definitely a huge concern around access to this station in particular. I haven't seen all the stations in the Purple Line, but I can't imagine there are many that straddle two state highways. And the council member from the 3rd Ward mentioned the communities that are close enough to throw a football to the station probably have the hardest time getting there. And if they can't get there, then it'll be less likely for anyone to use it. And my fear is always going to be no one uses that stop because they don't feel like it's safe. And therefore, over time, that becomes, a less invested first station out in terms of like any type of de-investment, which we have seen in other instances, whether it's bus stops on Kenworth Avenue that are not first in line for some upgrades because the ridership is low, because it's pretty dangerous to use. So Any other information around the sidewalks and the walking, biking path? You mentioned a couple things, pedestrian ramps, bike lanes, which is great, gaps along Kenilworth Avenue. And then you talked about a data collection sort of project that you're doing right now. Let us know the best way to plug into that, whether if you need community outreach, we have a walk, bike, drive committee that is very much focusing on these types of issues within the town, that I'm sure would be happy to touch base and engage with you if you're looking for opportunities or suggestions. So just let us know how best to engage, and we'd be happy to.
I will do. Just to quickly answer your question, not take a lot of time. That project is very early. It's being led by our headquarters in Baltimore. Part of these federally funded PSAT projects, community outreach is a mandate in various stages of the project. So right now it's data collection and concept development. And then prior to design, it'll probably be a public interest meeting that takes forth. And then as we go forward, it'll be additional meetings.
We love to get better early than late, so we appreciate that. Councilmember Warsop.
Thank you. To just strongly support the comments by the mayor and my fellow council person from Ward 3. Strongest concern is about pedestrian and I think bicyclist accessibility from surrounding communities. So I'm happy to hear that there is some thought to that, and definitely agree it would be very useful to see more detail on other ongoing plans. Would also bring up just the sequencing issue, that it's great to hear that there are plans potentially, but thinking through, when that access might happen is also really important. So that timing matters a lot. In addition to that, just on the bike issue, I'm glad to hear there's bike safety being taken into account, but also wondering if there are any longer term plans like for connectivity to existing bike paths in the area. So that was one question. Another question I had about kind of the underpass design itself was about is there anything in the plan related to like sound control from the highways for people that would be gathering under the underpass? And then lastly, what is in the design in terms of safety for people gathering in the underpass, given that it is surrounded by two very busy roads? So I'd really appreciate just your thoughts on that. But thank you for the presentation.
All great questions. All I can say until I get an engineer to give you a more technical answer on the soundproofing is that the Art in Transit, the additional trees and shrubberies that are going to be installed, and just the exterior finish work that they're doing overall will have its own natural sound buffers. I mean, if you go in there now, I'm amazed walking in there with a construction crew that the sound from the traffic is buffered a little bit. Of course, you're not going to get rid of all of it. It is open, right? But I can actually get you a little bit more technical information from an engineer about whether soundproofing or sound buffering was included in the design in a more thoughtful, intentional way. As far as the connect, and I also want to get an answer to you about the bike paths that are being added, because when I say bike paths across the alignment, what I need to find out is exactly what's going on in this specific area that connects to existing bike paths, so I can get back to you on that one.
Thank you.
And then as far as people gathering under that beautiful Art in Transit installation, I don't know if you were on the beginning of the call, but we talked about the increased lighting and the CCTV cameras.
I guess just to clarify, yes, I heard that and appreciate that. Thank you. I'm more asking about safety from the road, like from cars driving by. So if are there barriers around the gathering space? Like, how is the area protected from the road?
It will have, they're not going to be walls on either side of it, right? But there's a safe path to the underneath of the flyover and the stairs that go up to where you actually catch the train. So maybe what would be best is to zero in on the schematic. So
Mhm.
and provide a more zoomed in image so that you can actually see what that looks like.
Thank you. I would appreciate
Mhm.
that.
Any other council questions or comments?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Councilor Kalan?
Yeah, I just want to know what are they going to do from the McDonald's at Kenwalt Avenue, go around to the bypass, because that bus halt there is very narrow. What are they going to do about that bus halt? How are they going to do the sidewalk from the McDonald's to that area? That's what I want to know.
So we can add that to the list of sidewalk. I think a follow-up, whether it's in writing or in a report, if you can direct us to where in the plan sort of for this area from the sidewalks, I think that'd be key. There's a lot of I would say every sidewalk in that area is problematic. And so I'm assuming the plan is they would all have to be upgraded. I guess the question is just really in terms of there are some key connecting ones that don't necessarily fall directly underneath the Purple Line station, but are like key arteries sort of connecting to it. And so getting a sense of how far the plan is, especially if you're talking, especially since you mentioned that you're working with the county, and so it's obviously bigger than the footprint of the individual stations. It'd just be helpful to get a sense of that. Because we could probably, if we sat here long enough, come up with 5 or 6 other ones. Like, what about this sidewalk? What about this sidewalk? So, Councilor, I appreciate that concern and calling that out.
Mayor, I want to be clear. I didn't say we were working with the county. I said that after the Purple Line project is completed, the county and SHA, as Eric pointed out, do have plans for additional sidewalks that aren't part of our plan.
Correct. The U was for him, not you.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
And no, it's clarity is great. The before I open up to the public, one question was just around the actual underpass. One of the things it looked like there were plantings that were also planned for the Kenilworth Avenue side, sort of north of East West Highway. Looked like there was right now. That's like the streets is like a cul-de-sac, kind of ends in like I think it's Patterson Street. It seems like there was some planting there. Is that accurate with the plan as well?
I mean, I again would have to zoom in on that drawing to see exactly the perspective of these plants. Because these all look like they're very near the station.
Okay.
I need to see how further out they're going.
Okay.
I can confirm that for you.
Okay, thank you. Any public questions? Ms. Katz.
Thank you. Yes, thank you for the presentation. I was curious in the design, is there or will there be any locations for, I guess in the subway system, there's, complete map of the area, like when I'm in the subway system, am I right in assuming that this Purple Line aspect 2 will have those complete maps of the area when someone gets off the train?
That's a great question. So I can tell you that yes, there will be a map at the station, at all the stations. They'll have an area map and they'll show you the Purple Line alignment. I believe what's in the works for the stations that share WMATA connections. So we have several stations across the alignment. This isn't one of them, but for instance, at College Park, there will be a map that shows how we integrate with WMATA and where you would go to get on a metro train from, like, say you just disembark a Purple Line train. For this one, I think it'll just be an area map, and then it'll show the next Purple Line. It'll show the closest Purple Line stations that you could get to.
It seems, so it seems it would be, we also, you touched on buses and the bus system that's, it's changed recently, but for someone to get off at this station and you said there are lots of bus
Other
connections.
Public transit options, yeah.
I mean, a person
We are-
certainly, I guess nowadays you can look at your phone to see what those are, but that would also be something that I think would be very beneficial for someone getting off the train to see on a map, you know, the P40
Right.
stop right here.
I hope so. As a
Yeah.
public transit user myself, I so hope that we can integrate with the bus routes as well.
Yeah.
That is to be determined, and it very well may be the conversation, as I mentioned earlier, Purple Line Transit operators and the state to
See.
decide upon that. Yeah, but
Well,
it's
then
a
let me-
great suggestion.
Let me just layer another, actually, it's a lower layer on that, and that would be, especially with this wonderful resource that the community is going to have underneath the overpass thing, some kind of board that could also communicate to the community about local events that are going to be occurring.
That has been suggested as well.
Cool.
Yeah, digital signage, I do not see in the plans, but it has been requested not only for community events, but for local businesses to buy advertising. I know that
Sure.
some of the state delegation would like to take advantage of the captive audience and advertise for businesses. I will pause there for a moment and say that we are working very hard, even now without the Purple Line being open yet, with the businesses in this particular area, Kenilworth Avenue, to ensure that they have signage, that we promote them on social media. We do photo shoots with them and then provide the images free of charge, as well as video. We feature them in our newsletter and on our website because we know how important these small businesses, particularly the legacy businesses who have been there for generations, are to the Kenilworth Avenue area. And they have endured a lot through construction. We want to see that they stay strong so that they can be open after the Purple Line opens. So businesses are very top of mind. I have a team dedicated to business engagement and one officer that's just Prince George's County. So it's a commitment. If anybody ever has any suggestions for businesses we have not connected with, please let me know.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Lam.
To that point, is it possible to get a list of businesses that have been engaged or have not been engaged along that area? We know that it's sometimes we've had trouble sort of reaching that business population, and would love to know if they are if everyone's been taken care of and reached out to and you've been working with them, great. If there are people who have not, then it would be helpful. We can coordinate on our side to try and do some outreach as well. So
we would love nothing more than to add to the list. I think right now we're sitting on about 810 businesses who are searchable on our website. So under the business engagement link on our website, all the businesses that have agreed to be promoted by the Purple Line Project are searchable on that site. We know we haven't reached many, and then there are also those that do not want to be promoted by the Purple Line. We do our best, but if we're told that they don't want us in their business, we don't keep pushing. So if there's a way that we can, I'll send you the link so that you can look at the businesses, and hopefully we can filter easily for Prince George's County. But if there's any way that we can collaborate on reaching businesses, that would be great. We are working with UMD, PLCC, and we have a marketing workshop with them every month with community organizations across both counties. And we are identifying new businesses through those marketing department connections, thanks to PLCC.
thank you.
Mr. Bill?
Who was that? Council Member Colon. Yes.
That one. Yes, I have another question for them. What provisions they have for the handicapped people or the disabled people by the Riverdale station? What provision they have for them?
At the station?
Yes.
At the Purple Line station?
Yeah, by Riverdale Kenilworth. I think there's a train stop over there, not so?
Well, I can tell you that of course, there's elevator access up to the top of the platform, and then, as I'm sure you've probably seen in photos, the trains are low boarding. So there's a minimal gap, if any, and there's no step up. So wheelchairs can go right on, or with a walker or any micro mobility device, they can get right onto the train without having to navigate a step.
Oh, okay.
There's
Well,
also wheelchair and bicycle storage on every LRB.
okay. Well, that's nice. Thank you.
Of course.
Any other comments? The last question I have for you, maybe we can take this offline as well, is it's good to hear that the Purple Line advisors, or who, there's that group that's going to take maintenance control for the next 30 years or so. Um, uh, what about programming in terms of like the towns, like, would we, if the town wanted to use that area as like for our own sort of programming, if we wanted to throw an event, is that something that where we'd have to be able to maybe get like a permit or use or some type of agreement to be able to do stuff there? Are we too early in the stages for that?
Well, the question alone excites me because it's just one more sign that people are actually envisioning this being an operating line. So that is definitely an introduction that I can make with Purple Line Transit operators. I don't know if it would require some sort of reservation. I mean, it is owned by the state, but it's public. It's open, right? So whether it's a reservation, I don't know how that looks, but let me look into it and let me do an introduction with my counterpart over at Purple Line Transit Operators and see if we can get more information on what they're thinking.
Thank you. That'd be awesome.
Mhm.
All right. Well, in the interest of time, thank you so much, both of you. There's a lot of follow-up here, and we would definitely find an opportunity to connect with and sort of follow up on a couple of especially some of the post-station expansive access. I think there's a lot there, but then obviously would love to know more about, in a perfect world, the town should be able to, would love to be able to help activate that space. And if it requires a long process to do it every single time, I know that'll be a hurdle that will prevent it. So, getting those questions answered now, I think will go a long way in terms of like future usage. So thank you so much for your time, both
We
of you.
will work on those follow-up questions, get back to you as soon as possible.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. Next on the agenda, we have a presentation from on the Lafayette Natoli Place, as well as the town center market or town center redesign. I see we have Mr. Tissue is on as well. I'm assuming you're going to take the lead on this.
Yes. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council. Let me share my screen here. Hopefully you can see me. Can you see the screen? Well, it's really exciting to be at this point in the process tonight where we can actually make a recommendation to you on both of these projects. It's a culmination of about 10 months of work and extensive public input. I want to start tonight by acknowledging the work of Brian White with Mead Hunt, who is on the virtual meeting here with us tonight. He did excellent work on analysis, and all the designs you see were his work. And also, I think he did a good job just listening as we received so much public input. In your packets or this presentation that I'm going to show you tonight, also Brian's full report. And as you're reviewing that over the next few weeks, if you have any questions or concerns, please let us know. Last thing I'll say before I get rolling into this is we have the unanimous endorsement of the Walk Bike Drive Committee for our two recommendations. They met on August 24th and voted to endorse it. So I heard what the mayor said earlier. He wants to keep this moving, so I'm going to do that. And I have about a 10-minute presentation. I wouldn't mind showing you a traffic simulation for about a minute or two, and then I'll take whatever questions you have. So here's the process we used. Last fall, we did a lot of field observations and defined what problems as we understood them, prepared base maps. But then in January, we really got into the meat of public input. We wanted to hear people's concerns, their observations, what their dreams were really for this area. And we had a meeting with the town council, public meeting number 1 at the elementary school. We received about 23 really detailed thoughtful email from the community, and we also received Work Bike Drive committee input on more than one occasion. From that, we generated concepts and analysis, and then we presented those in May and June to another meeting of the town council. We had the second public meeting. We received 17 more emails from the communities. Jessica and I met with the folks at the farmers market and also on trolley trail days. And we also had a meeting with the affected business owners and received their input. So from all that, we refined and finalized our recommended concepts, and that's what you're going to see tonight. We're down here at the red line. We're hoping that as you review them this month, and hopefully we'll have a vote later this month to endorse these concepts. If that happens, then we'd work to hire a consultant to prepare the actual construction drawings, bid the projects, and then build this next year sometime. So the first project was the town center lot. The goals, as we received them from the public input, and you all know these things, we wanted to improve pedestrian cycling safety, minimize the conflict points on Queensberry Road. The trolley trail just kind of spills into the town center now. We wanted to clean that up and minimize conflict points with vehicles. Maryland Avenue needed to be separated and from just the general parking lot. We want to minimize parking lot. I'm going to talk about that in a minute. And we also wanted to facilitate the farmers market and other public events, no matter what options we used or came up with. And we needed to allow for business deliveries and just improve the aesthetics of the area, make it a public space that's worthy of being called the town center. So the first thing I want to talk about is the parking. And I have 2 slides on that. The first one is how much of the current parking is being used. So in March, we did a count of the parking during a Wednesday and provide that information to the public. And basically, we heard a lot from the public, like, you need to go back out and count again and do a Friday or something like that. So we picked June 20th, a Friday, and obviously the occupancy rates were much higher. So some of the observations from that June 20th count was that of the 78 spaces in the town center, and as it says down here at the bottom, that does not include the CSX lot on the east side of the rail line, nothing under 410, none of the curbside parking spaces on Rhode Island that's just a few footsteps away. This is in the town center proper, 78 spaces. On June 20th, the peak occupancy was 56 spaces. So that means that 22 spaces were empty at the peak time. 8 spaces were never used on that day, and there were 183 parking events. So this would lead you to believe that some parking could be lost and not affect the operations there. And this 22 spaces that were empty at the peak time is an important number to remember as we go through this. So how long were the spaces used? Well, on June 20th, 27 spaces were occupied by the same car for most of the day. 34 of the spaces were occupied for 4 hours or more. Who are those folks? Were they commuters? Are they employees? Are they people using this parking lot as a trailhead for the trolley trail? Could be all those things. But if you discount all those all-day parkers, the maximum occupancy of the short-term, what I call the customer parking, was only 29 of the 78 spaces that were used. What this suggests to me is that time parking probably should be considered sometime in the future. We're not making any recommendations on that now, but it's something that we may want to think about. So these were the concepts that we presented in May. I won't go through these again. At the May 20th meeting, we presented these and we received comments on them over the next 30 days. From the public meeting, from all the email we received, from the meeting with the business owners, conversations at trolley trail days, farmers market, concept number 2 had the most overall support. And that is the concept that we're recommending. So just to orient you here a little bit, I know you've seen these before, but Queensberry Road is out here. 410 East-West Highway Bridge is here. The MARC train rail line is down at the bottom. This concept shows a fairly significant plaza area, just generically shown in red. The trolley trail comes under the bridge and would be above the grade of the parking lot by the curb height, and would move through the plaza area and cross directly across from Rhode Island. And Maryland Avenue is separated to the bottom. So on the parking loss, this is a net loss of 15 parking spaces. There's 23 spaces lost in here, but Brian was able to develop 8 more parking spaces at this end, so a net loss of 15. If you compare that to the 22 I mentioned before, we're actually losing less spaces than were used the day in the peak hour of the count we did. However, we could even pick up 9 more spaces over on Rhode Island Avenue, and I'm going to talk about that in a minute. So the parking lot design is a one-way circulation. The trolley trail has 0 conflict points with any vehicles as it goes through the plaza area. Maryland Avenue is separated, has a double yellow center line, has a raised crosswalk here for pedestrians to get to the MARC station and also to calm traffic. Brian was able to develop a loading zone on Queensberry Road to get those delivery trucks off the road so that there's no backups from them. That requires the bus stop to be moved about 30 feet to the west, and it can accommodate both of those. I think the potential for just a nice public space in here is tremendous. You could have public events in here, you could have public art, you could have outdoor seating. The clock and a lot of the other amenities in that area don't have to be relocated, which saves a lot of construction money. And we are recommending that Rhode Island Avenue be made one-way northbound. And the reason for that is these lefts that don't have to stop add some delay as they're crossing there. It adds some confusion. I'm going to talk more about that in a minute. There's no added impervious area, so when we get into the design, stormwater management will be simplified. And the ADA spaces, there's 3 of them right here along the curb that should have direct access to the businesses. This is just what I went over. The farmers market, we just did a schematic layout of, this is 44 pop-up tents of how they could use the space. I think a lot of times the farmers market could be pretty much contained on the new plaza, but it certainly could spill over into this area. If this is done, you still have 41 parking spaces available, and it can work. It could work very well, I think. Back to Rhode Island. So this is a graphic that I asked Brian to put together. So in the morning, there's 120 people that want to make that left turn onto Rhode Island in the peak hour. 55 in the evening do it, but in the morning it's 120, like 2 per minute, right? This graph basically shows where they would be diverted to if we went forward with this, and it's not really all that profound. Some would probably use 46th Avenue, and we estimate more would probably use Route 1. Is this recommendation essential to our overall concept? No, and you know, I'm not pretending to know the town as well as you all as whether or not this could work, but I feel like it would eliminate some conflict points in this area, and it's a very busy area where there's literally hundreds of pedestrians and cyclists cross every day. If you did that, if we made it one-way northbound, we could pick up 9 parking spaces on Rhode Island where the southbound lane is, and essentially then our net loss of parking in the project would be 6. On to the second part of the project at Queensberry, Natoli, and Lafayette. So based on the public input, the goals for that area were again pedestrian and cycling safety. We wanted to calm traffic, especially that traffic that's going north on Lafayette from Queensbury that can make that movement kind of at a high speed, and it's kind of an unprotected movement. Discourage cut-through traffic if we could, minimize traffic conflict points on Queensbury. You know, we need to do something to address the traffic control or lack thereof at Natoli Place in Lafayette. Try to have better access control into the CSX lot, and just overall improve aesthetics. So these were the concepts that we presented. Again, I won't review them. We presented these at the public meeting as well, and we had comments on these for 30 days, and overwhelmingly, concept 6 was the one that was endorsed by the community. So that is the one that we are recommending. So just to orient you a little bit again on this one, this is Queensbury Road. The town market is here. The mark line's at the top of the page on this one. And the proposal is the construction of a roundabout, speed table, crosswalk, and improves pedestrian safety by adding all the sidewalks that are in blue. It adds a shared use path along this side of Queensbury Road, because this is as you all know, a very desirable pedestrian movement. They would be able then to cross at a new crosswalk under the protection of a 4-way stop to get over to this side of Queensbury. There's excellent traffic control at this intersection where there's really very little now. The only conflicting movement would be anybody that would come south on Lafayette and want to actually turn and go on Rittenhouse. There'd be this car would have to wait for that. That's a very, very light movement. This closes that south access point from the CSX parking lot that kind of spills right out into Queensbury, but it enhances this access down here. We have a green space in this area because now Lafayette is both northbound and southbound, moved down to here. So we wanted a green space in here, but we also wanted to maintain parking for these folks. So we've been able to do that by providing parking in this area and by moving the no parking in the corner sign up and picking up a few spaces in here. So we're basically at a wash on the parking spaces. This improves the aesthetics of the area. Munch Park increases in size by like 30%, and you don't have to cross Lafayette anymore to get to it. So we can have an opportunity to do some things there. We have the opportunity for placemaking in the circle, and then you have better access to the Veterans Monument by this raised crosswalk. So that's everything I just went over with you. So the next steps, we're presenting this to you tonight. It's my understanding that we're proposing that you think about this over the next few weeks and potentially have a vote on August 25th to endorse these recommendations. If you choose to do so, then our next step would be to solicit proposals for the construction documents and get your approval of that and get the design started. So if I may, I would like to show a short traffic simulation, if I can. Let's see. Okay. If we could just watch this for maybe a minute. And it takes a little bit to load up. Well, hopefully it loads up.
I can try sharing my screen.
Okay. I'll stop sharing. I thought, Brian, if we could show like the first minute, minute and a half of it, just to allow them to have a feel for how the traffic does flow in this new configuration. Brian, do you want to talk about anything that I forgot, or specifically the simulation? What time of day is it? Is
Sure.
this current traffic, et cetera?
I'll do the second part first. So you can see people walking across, right? So it's pretty realistic. This is nighttime. This is the evening peak hour. So it's basically the worst hour of the day. And what we did was we added a growth factor, not a growth factor. We simply added car trips from a soon to happen, I guess, complex, residential complex at Riverdale Station, and basically assumed a whole bunch of trips were going to come down to Maryland Avenue. Some of them were going to go to the parking lot and patronize businesses. Some were going to go left onto Queensberry. Some were going to go right onto Queensberry. We were pretty conservative with how many cars we added. We added 50 cars in 1 hour, which is double what Maryland Avenue sees right now. So it was more of a test to see if the network was sensitive to just a handful of cars from Maryland Avenue. And you'll see over the course of maybe the next part of the simulation, it's a little bit sensitive sometimes. If there's a bunch of people that are turning left in a row and they can't go left. But by and large, the volumes of Maryland Avenue were pretty low to begin with, so you weren't going to see much in the way of queuing. You see some cars on Queensberry stopping at Maryland Avenue. They're really actually stopping for pedestrians, or they're stopping for a vehicle that's stopped in front of them. In reality, they probably would block the intersection, but we coded it so they wouldn't block the intersection. That would actually create what we're doing right now, would create more backups in the simulation. So it's a little bit less realistic. I mean, this is what you see now. This is what you're going to see in the future, unless people stop using it as a cut through. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with the way this turned out, shifting this quick left, shifting this way down here, creating an all-way stop. We're not seeing any spillbacks into a hypothetical railroad crossing. We're not seeing that, which is great. This movement now has at least one more stop control in front of it. So go back for a second. So yeah, I'm really happy with the way the movement through here is clean. It's slowed down a little bit. You're not seeing extensive queuing anywhere. Sometimes you see a little bit turning left here on the Queensberry, but there isn't. By shifting the most difficult intersection movement away and putting it at a four-way stop, we really solve a lot of problems here, irrespective of what we even do with the traffic circle. So I think this is the right call in terms of cleaning up the way driver expectations are and reducing pedestrian vehicle conflicts and making things more intuitive to all users. So I did want to add one thing, Rodney, was that that shared use path we're proposing at the bottom of Bunch Park. So that'll also help cyclists on Queensberry basically get off of, get out of the most congested area, so they can hop on this is the least congested area of Queensberry, and this is the most congested area. They can hop off and not be a road cyclist. They can hop off onto the shared use path, cross the tracks, and get to the plaza without having to mess around with any vehicle traffic in this little congested area. So that was kind of another reason why we did that path there.
Thank you, Brian. So, Mr. Mayor, I think that's our presentation, and we'd be happy to discuss it with you all.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the presentation, walking through the different concepts, as well as walking us through the many steps. When did we start this? When was the first time public gave input on these projects?
Really, January.
Yeah, first week of January.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Thank you. Council, any questions? Councilmember Worsnop.
First, thank you so much for your work and for the presentation. Really helpful. So I had, looking at my notes quickly. Okay, one question, no, two questions that I'll raise now. One is I saw that you had consulted affected businesses. Obviously makes sense. What were they generally supportive of the plans? What were their views? I didn't see that summarized in the background document, so I was just curious about that. And then as a follow-up, because it's related, what like, is there anything that can be done during the construction phase that could help to reduce disruption, or what's the thinking around that? But thank you for speaking to those issues.
Sure. Jessica, I believe there's minutes from our meeting with the affected business owners, and I'm just going from memory. But what I recall was try to minimize parking loss. I remember specifically the bread company liked option 2 because I think they were toying with the idea of being able to have the folks that are waiting in line there, their business, which is significant, to be able to stand in the plaza or maybe take what they purchased and be in the plaza. I definitely remember that comment. And I think we could get those minutes to you.
Okay, no, now that I know that they're there, I can probably find them, but thank you.
Your second question is excellent, and it's always super important. Just like the first presentation you all had tonight, we have to reach out to the businesses and we have to do our best to mitigate impacts on them. There will be impacts because there'll be construction happening there, but we have to do whatever we can to let people know they're open, to make sure we have good access into their operations, all those kind of things. And that has to be thought through in the next phase.
Okay.
Including,
thank you.
Including construction staging. So there's going to be some public space that's going to be needed for construction staging that, isn't obviously marked on here yet, but maybe it's Rhode Island Avenue, next to the trail. That's true. That's a TBD.
Okay. Any other council questions? Councilmember Lingua.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Gentlemen, you went out, you did that one assessment that one Wednesday. I know that folks who are regularly through that area could share with you stories about navigating not one, but maybe 2 trucks or more already at Town Center Market early in the morning. And I know these delivery folks are trying to do the best they can to get deliveries done at an opportune time, both for themselves as well as the business, as well as traffic coming through the area. And I've seen that you've put a spot along Queensbury for a delivery spot for anyone dropping off for those businesses in that area, as they are now. Is there a contingency to address vehicle, several, one or more delivery trucks showing up for that area at the same time, so that they can safely drop off whatever's been ordered to the businesses?
No.
Not really.
It's the short answer.
I mean, they would use obviously the space that we're going to provide, and then parking spaces that are not used at that time in the town center.
Okay, well then that begs the question, is the design that you have in town center navigable for a delivery truck to be able to get in and out without issue? And what I'm looking at is more, I would hope that someone in a 53-foot long truck would attempt to try and come into that parking lot. I would hope that they would try and just stay along Maryland Avenue and just have to traverse from there to the business. But say for a vehicle, it's, a 6-wheeled vehicle or maybe slightly larger.
So a vehicle like that could do a K-turn. I mean, in a lot if they have the room for it. And judging by our counts, our parking utilization counts, they will have the room for it.
Okay.
So in that respect, yes, I would, and like you said, I would hope that a 53-foot truck isn't coming into the parking lot with any hopes of executing any kind of turning maneuver at all. Park on the curb, park underneath the bridge deck, and
Okay.
and let out.
Okay. I have left some other questions and comment in the message section, also one comment, but I'm not going to bring those up here. If we want to answer those at another time and send them along to us, I would appreciate that. That's been my main concern.
I saw your comments on the angled parking, and typically straight in parking like we show is typically more efficient than angled parking, but we'll talk through
I'm
that.
talking about Maryland Avenue.
Right.
I mean, farther up, north of, from like, beyond, on the north side of 410 and upwards, where vehicles are now parking, where, I guess there's going to have to be some discussions with CSX about how much we can do in terms of clearing out, along that right of way, to be able to achieve that. And then again, that might be begging the question, I imagine then it's also going to be, the town will be looking at, some improvements along there, which I'm sure would be welcomed by many in that area, because then this becomes, that east side as well as that west side becomes all the more important, both for the businesses along Maryland Avenue, north of 410, as well as those in that town center.
Yes, we heard that comment a lot in the public process, and I'm sure you guys do, all of you do as well.
Okay, so I'm just asking, has there been any talk among staff regarding how to address Maryland Avenue?
Not that I've been involved in. Unless Jessica, do you want to speak to that?
Sure, there's been a significant discussion over time, but focusing on the town center right now and not necessarily delving into the Maryland Avenue right at this time is kind of where we landed. But we have discussed, and if you'll recall, when we did permit parking, we created some what is like commercial parking zones. And so there were some thoughts about, how we could incorporate parking along Maryland Avenue from the very beginning, many years ago, if you will. So there's no discussion on a timeline for improvements to Maryland Avenue. We do know that would be a very significant, very costly project, especially with the large trucks that at this time are coming in and out of that area. So that hasn't been included in part of this discussion with these concepts per se.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilmember Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Not too much. We've been over this, I think, pretty exhaustively from, I remember talking with former Mayor Thompson about this before I was even elected for the first time about this project. We've given, I generally want to compliment the staff on the robust outreach effort that was done around this, from multiple community meetings to walk-in talks and being available at the farmers market, not to mention the Walk Bike Drive committee and their meetings, which are publicly noticed and open to the public, articles in the Crier, content on the town social media pages. Just an exhaustive process over many years to obtain as much feedback and input from our residents as possible. And I hope that's something that town staff are proud of, because I'm certainly proud of y'all for it and proud of our town. This looks great. These two designs, I favorite these from pretty early on. So happy to see that was the feedback from the rest of the community as well. Really happy to have this project moving another step forward, and looking forward to voting for this as soon as possible, which it looks like is our August 24th meeting. Hope we can have it on the agenda then, and look forward to supporting it. Thank you.
Thank you, council member. Any other comments from council members before we open it up to the public? I'll just add that I appreciate the outreach as well, and addressing the multiple concerns that were brought up throughout the process, whether it's where's the handicap parking to what are we doing around sort of parking loss to the actual plaza and what that might look like. Every time we brought up questions, you work to come back with answers, including the simulation for the actual traffic as well. So I appreciate the effort that went into this, and the almost year-long journey that we've been to just get here. So thank you. Any other questions or comments from the council? If not, we'll open up to the public. Any public questions or comments?
I have no question.
Thank you, council member. Ms. Katz.
I swear I counted to 5 before I raised my hand. I know there's some other people on the call. I was assuming would have some comments, but I have a couple comments and a question. My first question is, where does the northbound only on Rhode Island begin?
It was just that first block.
Yeah.
So basically Riverdale Road to Queensberry Road.
Mm-hmm. Riverdale Road, right.
Okay. So meaning someone could turn left onto Riverdale. I guess that would be the only way they could do. They could turn left onto Riverdale Road, or come down Riverdale Road and turn right. Is that
correct?
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Right. Correct.
It seems to make a lot of sense. Thank you for that. And then my next thing, I just want to provide some feedback on the East Side project. And I think that there's opportunity to make an even bigger plaza area. I guess I'm not understanding, and I know this didn't come from the engineers, but why the Veterans Memorial? I know it's on CSX property, but the fact that was a constraint and could not be impacted in any way. It seems to me we're missing an opportunity to actually make the plaza even bigger. And also, when we have events at the memorial, currently the road is impacted because people are out in the street for that event. And so if the memorial could actually be moved into the plaza area, or even into that circle, I thought that was an interesting thing you all said. And depending on how big that circle is compared to the circle that we have farther down Lafayette, I don't have a concept. That might be a question I have too, is this traffic circle the same size as the one at the end of Lafayette? But I digress. My real point is about maximizing the plaza space. And I was really curious what it would look like if that circle was moved even over more into where the memorial currently is.
And just to be clear, when you say plaza area, you're talking about what I called Munch Park, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I
Just
keep
so we're on the
saying
same
if
language. Mhm.
Yes, Munch Park. But if the circle was moved, and I think I said plaza, but I meant to say if the circle, the traffic circle, the roadway was moved over to where more towards the Veterans Memorial, and the memorial was moved into Munch Park.
Yeah, I think it's a possibility. I guess I don't know what the politics of that would be for you all as far as moving that, but it's always a possibility.
There was one thing that we used as a constraint here, and that was the driveway off of that house on Natoli. So we didn't want to have their driveway basically be a leg of the traffic circle, right? We wanted it to be off of a leg from the traffic. So just for, for their own safety, of ingress and egress from their house. So that was kind of what we did. We did actually, I think, increase the size of the Veterans Plaza a little bit. Not plaza, but you know what I mean. That we added some green space there, and recurbed it. So it's a little bigger, maybe 15% bigger than it is now.
Once again, I just want to put forth, I can't visualize it because it hasn't been designed out, but the opportunity to turn the table here and maximize the amount of space of the total space that we have, just try to move more space over into the Munch area, and with the assumption that the Veterans Memorial could actually be moved and wouldn't necessarily need to exist as it does today. And the constraint of the driveway would really be the constraint, how that could actually be positioned geometrically to work, or if it could be.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And I really like the little simulation. That's very helpful. And so that also makes me really, I know you have, I think this is, both designs are fixing so many things, which is really nice. But the left turning, the cars that are still turning left where there's a stop sign here, they have a stop sign, but the other side of Queensbury does not have a stop sign. I don't think these people turning left are ever going to be able to turn left, either there or at Lafayette. I'm really curious what the data or what y'all's opinion is also on those left turns. That's going to be it doesn't look very promising to me.
Well, I think a lot of that traffic is cut through traffic, just based on the numbers. And they're using 47th to get down to a signalized intersection on Route 1 south of Riverdale Road. So I think one outcome of this is that you actually might get less cut through traffic, because it'll just be a less desirable route, at least in the evening. You might get the same amount of cut through traffic in the morning.
Until there's more development, but okay. Thank you so much. I'll stand down for now. Thank you.
Councilmember Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. One thing I just noticed on here, I see at Lafayette and Queensbury, the crosswalk there. Further down, there is the crosswalk at Natoli and Queensbury, and that one, there's already a crosswalk there. When we first started having conversations about installing that crosswalk, we explored the one or putting one at Lafayette and Queensbury, and determined that that was just not a safe place for a crosswalk, because that's a downward slope coming off the railroad tracks that there was a danger that folks at speed coming up over that little, I hesitate to exaggerate and call it a hill, but it is raised in a downward grade, that could be a blind spot for somebody on a bike or pushing a stroller or things like that, and that it wouldn't be safe there. But I'm seeing it in this one. I'm wondering if we have new thinking on that, or if this design sort of mitigates traffic to the point that that's not as much of a concern. Just curious how we arrived at that.
It really stemmed from two things. The first being that, yes, you are going over a hill, but you have to slow down to go over the tracks. So you're slightly being slightly impeded. Second of all, the demand was already there. I mean, people were already crossing without the crosswalk. Yeah. So making it look like a place where people want to cross to a driver, making it look like a place to cross is, we think is a good idea. So formalizing that crossing makes a lot of sense to us.
That makes sense. And that I see am remembering also that westernmost leg of the circle coming off there is eliminated. So that's at least one intersecting street that is not there anymore to cause it dangerous. So that answers my question. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shanks.
Hey, good evening, folks. I've been trying to turn my camera on and it won't click on, so you'll have to deal with me and my bow tie for a few minutes. Apologies for being a few minutes late. So if this was covered, my questions were covered, please feel free to just click mute. But I have two questions. The first is the northbound on Rhode Island beginning at Queensbury. Is that my understanding? Is that sort of a proposed aspect of concept, perhaps 2 or 3 or 3A?
It is. We're
Okay.
recommending that. It does not have to be approved, but I think it would clean that area up a little bit.
Yeah, I certainly agree and think that sort of double 3-way back-to-back intersection is certainly hectic, especially at peak traffic times.
Right.
I'm wondering, for questions for the town to consider, what methods or strategies do we have for enforcing that northbound one-way? Because I could easily see us stating that it is a one-way and then folks just sort of continuing as if nothing has changed.
So there's 2 ways to enforce this. The first is the stop bar that goes across the entire leg of the intersection, as opposed to just the half the leg. And so there's no double yellow line. There's a stop bar that goes all the way across, and there's parked cars in the lane that you would like to turn left into. There's a row of parked cars on the curb, because that's kind of what we're ideally what we're kind of reconfiguring that lane, that southbound lane into is parallel on-street parking.
Mm-hmm.
So unless you want to hit a parked car,
I've seen people drive with that intention sometimes.
I mean, with any new change, I mean, it's going to take it's going to be a little bit of noise initially. So you may have some people blindly making that left, but they're only going to do it once.
Certainly. My other follow-up question is related to, I guess, between concepts 2, 3, and 3A. So with what is proposed as concept 2, there's the recommended change to northbound only. Why do you all see that as preferential to just creating a standard 4-way intersection as proposed in 3 and 3A?
So the big reason, I don't want to speak for everybody, but the big reason was that there wasn't a lot of advantage to moving Maryland Avenue. Particularly, for a couple reasons. One, you put a road right in front of a business, a through road right in front of the business, like you would have in a suburban type location. And second of all, the traffic coming from Maryland Avenue was just so much less than the other 3 legs that it was kind of, in the end, immaterial in terms of how it impacted congestion, right? So it didn't really change much. Like there was no benefit that way to moving it, and it took away just an absolute ton of parking in every scenario, because of the need to basically cut diagonally through the parking lot to achieve a realigned, four-legged intersection.
And the other side of that coin is, I think, there's a real advantage to having the plaza contiguous with the businesses.
Exactly. Yeah, that's a huge advantage.
Certainly. Okay. I only raised that because I was sort of a fan of creating the bend in the road to reduce people speeding down the street. And I recognize that creating one way will certainly reduce the traffic, but it may not necessarily inhibit people, maybe seeing a train and taking a left and flying up northbound for what it's worth. So those were sort of the impetus for my questions and things that I hope you consider.
Mr. Mayor.
Before we get to you, I know Councilmember Lingwood has also, Mr. York, I know you've been trying to get off of mute. Are you able to speak now, or do we need I get back to you?
I can speak if I just couldn't determine whether you can see my message that I wanted to speak.
Well, I'm talking to you now, so I did see it.
Okay,
It
two
makes sense.
things. Somebody said something about, I think the quote was basically, it's a wash on the two, or on the parking spaces on Natoli Place and Queensberry. What does wash mean? Does it mean that we'll still have the same amount of parking spaces, or what? I mean, it looks to me like we've got 17 apartments here, 12 on Natoli, 5 on Rittenhouse, and parking spaces on the street for, at least in front of Natoli, 2 cars. What are you going to do with all those people who want to park in front of Natoli Place?
Well, Natoli Place has a big parking lot behind the house.
No, it
but
doesn't. No, it
does.
doesn't. No.
We're adding 2 spaces on Queensberry, so and we're bumping out.
No, I absolutely disagree with you on a big parking space. We created 3 last year, and you can barely get out of your car there. One is an electric car charging spot. The other one is a hybrid charging spot. And there's 3 for the people in the pink house, not for the brick house. And you have cars, and the trash truck needs to get in there, and it's frequently blocked by cars who park too far out in the center, or just regular sized cars that are too big actually to park in the back. And you know, if anything, I would open a body shop down the street and collect money from tenants that way who run into each other. So, you know, it's not a big parking lot. And I'd be happy to meet you there and go through it. So
Also,
I mean, what you're doing is you're robbing my tenants of a place to park. And when I mentioned this to a couple of them a couple days ago, they were outraged, especially when they told me, we think we're going to have to get a second car. And somebody else just did. Not every one of those 12 tenants have cars, but some do. And some have children, and that means you got to get a second car. So
just to keep the conversation moving forward, I think in terms of you know, Mr. Tissue, in terms of the parking allotment spots, I'm assuming you were, you know, were you counting sort of how many like public parking slots, spaces that currently are in Natoli Place?
Right. How many we estimated to be there, providing some, continuing to provide some, and then adding some on Queensberry.
And I got another problem with this thinking too. I mean, in another month, I'm going to hand somebody in the county a $30,000 check for taxes. And now you're making my decision to park cars for free on my park when maybe I want to have a bocce ball yard, or, you know, you're telling me what I have to do with the yard. I mean, our tenants use the yard for other things other than parking a car. And why are you taking their parking spaces away when you're not taking somebody in Taylor Road's parking spaces away, or any other spot in this town? Why are you picking on my people?
Well, Mr. York, appreciate your comment. I think in terms of clarity, these are all public parking spaces, so no one has ownership over them.
Well, that's not true. When I bought this place, Guy Tiberio had sealed off the front of the parking in front of this house, and it was for parking only for people who lived in the brick house and in the pink house. It was Natoli parking only. So I gave up a little bit of my property rights about 10 years ago when those signs came down. Now you're cutting even more of my property rights. And I haven't seen any benefits to the taxes that we pay. And I haven't seen a reduction in the taxes. And I also have number 2 problem. You're going to do this in 3 weeks. You're going to have a vote and nobody here. I didn't know anything about it until Dan sent the email at 2:33 or whatever time it was this afternoon. There's been no discussion with the business association, no discussion with any of the businesses around here, and not one of my tenants knows about it. I pounded on the door, and a bunch of them went in January to the school, but they haven't heard much of this. And I bet you the people on Queensberry don't know either. So this looks like a ramrod issue here as well.
So I appreciate your comments. I disagree with it being sort of rushed through. I think we had the slide that showed how many people, how long this has been a conversation. This isn't something that was, designed in the middle of the night, as well as I've spoken to multiple business owners in the area who have had conversations when the town met. So we can happy to pull the minutes and sort of talk about who was there, who was present, what was said. So I understand that everyone will not sort of be like that there's always going to be compromise anytime there's any change. Your comments have been noted, so I appreciate you speaking up and adding to the public record. But there are a couple other hands up that I want to make sure we get before we close this meeting out. Councilmember Lingua, and then we can get back to you, Mr. Shanks.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. The question I had for the gentleman, Mr. Tissue, and hold on a second. I want to make sure I get names right here. Let me use my screen here.
Mr. White?
Yes, Mr. White. Regarding what you're talking about, Rhode Island Avenue, making it one way. And a way of doing that is putting that barricade for the southbound lane, but also creating parking there. It made me think about the development that's being considered there. The Llewellyn property / Jamal property, co-partner development for there, and across the way where that open space is now, where the old bookstore was. That's now said to be that Park and Planning has given the green light and would allow a 3-story building there, of which 2 stories would be apartments. And there is an issue about parking for those 2 buildings. And my question is about, in terms of what Mr. Shanks brought up about enforcement regarding enforcing parking there to make sure that is, for lack of a better term, rotating parking for a number of hours during the day, so that no one's parking there long term, which could easily happen.
Right. And the only way to do that really is to make it time parking, and then have enforcement, which is rules don't mean anything if there's no enforcement, or have metered parking, which would ensure turning over.
Mr. Mayor?
We'll have you next. We'll do Mr. Shanks, and then we'll do you next, Councilman McCullen. Mr. Shanks, go ahead. Your hand's raised.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Councilman Lingua, for also bringing up. That was one other thing I wanted to mention, was questions around it forecasting increased use with the apartment complexes coming online, both with more cars, but also more bodies. If Mr. Tissue and Mr. White had thought around how the sort of back-to-back 3-way intersections could be impacted with increased use, as opposed to the traditional 4-way. I believe you. I know this is your area of expertise, but in my mind, the traditional 4-way just seems simpler, especially when you're in cars and there's people walking back and forth. There's just a lot going on with those back-to-back 3-ways. So just a question for the group there. To reiterate, around the forecasting of increased use of people in cars, do you all feel that concept, 2, has the capacity to take that increased use of the projected apartments coming online?
We believe it does. Absolutely. And you have, I don't know, I can't look 20 years out, but I mean, there might be a time where this becomes a victim of success, and the area becomes so desirable that you get even more redevelopment. I don't know. I don't want to forecast that far out, but I think you're going to see more people traffic than you are car traffic from these pending developments. I mean, no one's gonna park their car and drive across the street, right, to patronize a business.
Right. One other thing, and this is about when I tuned in, I heard, I think Ms. Katz talking around relocating the memorial on sort of the concepts for Natoli Place to the center of the circle. Is that something that she raised, or was that raised in the initial conversation? Because if so, I'd have some concerns around relocating.
Yeah,
that.
our proposal doesn't move the Veterans Memorial.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Colon.
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
I want us to do something. I don't want us to make a wrong decision, right? Let's find a day, the mayor and council and some of their town manager and staff and the deputy manager to meet like the town center. We discuss about this thing, because what I'm seeing in the future is going to be a problem. The house owners and business owners are going to be a problem. I didn't see nothing wrong with the former roads. But if we make any decision today, in the future, it's going to be a problem. Let's sit down and discuss this. This is not Zoom meeting. The mayor and the council, town manager, and some staffs. Let's sit down and discuss this thing face to face, in person. Before we make any wrong decision.
Appreciate your feedback on that. We've done that. I mean, there's an element of I'm looking at the project process, the amount of public feedback, trolley trail day, farmers markets, meetings with affected businesses. Yeah, there we go. There's a sort of the slide there. This has been I've gotten more questions around this when people anytime we've been in the space. We had a conversation where we thought we were pretty close to moving forward. It was the meeting before Trolley Trail Day in June, and the feedback that we gave there was, let's delay it till after Trolley Trail Day so we can get more feedback, right? And we did that, and there was a booth set up there for people to get questions during Trolley Trail Day, which is probably the highest use day in town center. We had a ton of people go there. It's I personally think the jewel of Trolley Trail Day. And so at some point, we're going to have to make a decision. I know that people feel apprehensive about making decisions because the permanence of it. We're talking about ripping up parking lots and changing roads and changing the way traffic moves. I understand the momentous nature of this, but this is not something that the town or the residents or even our staff and the folks who've been working on this, appeared lightly into it. This has been a years-long conversation and then a almost year-long process where we've been getting feedback along the way. I know we're at 8:45 right now, and my goal is to sort of wrap this up. Again, this is a work session. There is no official meetings or there's no motions. We're not taking any votes. It was really, I appreciate folks coming out and giving us the final presentation in terms of where they are in the design process. My recommendation would be not to bring this up for vote in the August 25th meeting, which is the first Monday coming back from recess. I'm happy to have a conversation to maybe bring it to vote in early September as a result. And I offer anyone, spread the word. Share it out loud. If you have any thoughts or concerns, please share them, to town staff. You can email myself, Mr. Tissue and Mr. White. I'm sure they're happy to share their contact information in all the various channels. But this has been one of the most widely distributed concepts we've had in town. So I am personally shocked if any story is that the town hasn't gone out of their way to try to make this a known thing over the course of almost a year or so. And so willing to take some of the feedback and willing to make not try to feel like we're further ramming it in, but I guarantee you we'll have the same conversation come September, or if we move to October or December, because I think there is an element where we have to make a decision, because at some point we're going to lose funding, and at some point we're going to have to run into sort of scheduling issues. Councilmember Smith, you have the last word, and then we'll adjourn.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm wondering if my fellow members of this body, in regards to having this vote in early September, I thought, well, I know in the proposal staff offer voting date of, I believe, August 24th. And again, that is just the staff document. It's up to us when we vote. But to your point, we previously had a pretty good way ahead here, a good amount of feedback. And then it was raised that we should wait until trolley trail day. So we did that. And I think the feedback we got there was good, and it was good exercise. And then now here we are again today talking about delaying it to early September instead of our meeting at the end of the month. So I'm just wondering if my colleagues on the council are certain that we'll be able to vote in early September. If we wait until the first meeting of September, is there going to be any other calls for delay at that time? Because if that's a possibility, we should figure that out now before getting to another deadline that we have to delay at the time, and so forth, and continuing with that exercise. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
It's a good point. Actually, let's do a straw poll. It's not an official vote. I'm just sort of curious to get at the temperature. Councilmember Smith, since you just spoke, I'll start with you. Would you be willing to make a final decision for a recommendation for the first meeting in September, which I can get you a date for? I think it's September.
That would be the
8th, September 8th.
Mr. Mayor, I would be extremely happy to vote on this at the end of August. Barring that, I would love to vote on it in early September.
Thank you. Councilmember Foe?
I'll be ready to vote. Yeah.
Councilmember Lingua?
As stated in my comment. I put in the comments my opinion a little before 8 o'clock about September
8th. In the interest of time, could you sum it up for me? If it's more nuanced, you can just say
quote,
you
these plans need town input and 3 weeks will not be sufficient. It would be better to hold a vote at the September 8th meeting, unquote.
Thank you. Councilmember Worsnop.
I agree, September 8th better than the August meeting.
Okay, Councilmember Cologne?
September 8th.
All right, thank you. I appreciate everyone's feedback on that. That is all we have on the agenda. Is there, I guess we can just adjourn. Actually, there's no motion to adjourn. Appreciate the feedback from folks, the comments, both written and verbal, that were shared here. And as mentioned, the goal is we'll put this on the agenda for the legislative meeting in September. In the meantime, I encourage everyone to please share any feedback that you have with any person that's affiliated with the town. I'm sure that information will get to the right hands, whether it's any of the council members, me, the mayor, or the deputy town manager, Mr. Lestitian, Mr. Tissue, Mr. White. Happy to share that. And we will reconvene for our next meeting on August 25th. And so I appreciate everyone's time. We're adjourned at 8:50. Thank you all.
Yeah.
Bye.